Welcome to Aligned and Soulful Leadership. My name is Kavita Melwani, and I empower soulful, multicultural women of color to opulently shine their light without the hustle. I truly believe you can fulfill your soul's desire without losing yourself, your health, or your life in the process. I know that you can ignite your confidence and know your worth, all while walking your divine, unique path. So in this podcast, I will dive deep into topics, challenges, and blocks that women of color experience as they rise up into their aligned life and work. My deep desire is that BIPOC women can lead through their inner wisdom in a way that honors their soul. Are you ready to rise up as the leader you were born to be? Then this podcast is for you. When I talk about time, what comes up for you? I've done a few episodes on this podcast and I've done workshops on managing time. And no matter how many workshops I hold or how many I attend, I always learn something new. But today I want to go into some ways that you can recover seemingly lost time or time that's kind of disappears each week and you wonder what happened. If you want some other time management tips, I have some episodes in the past that will help walk you through that. So one is 3 ways to aligning your days and organizing your time. So that episode will be in the show notes. There'll be a link to that. And that one is more about, aligning your time, organizing your days, and looking at how you're spending your time. And this episode is more about the higher level of recovering time, looking at where does your time go and what can you do to recover that time. Okay. So if this sounds interesting to you, keep listening. So time is so valuable, and especially when you have multiple responsibilities and roles, which most of you do, then it feels like, you may have like some split energy. You may not understand what's happening in your days. I know I have days and weeks where I look back and wonder, like, what did I do? Right now, obviously, if I go back and if you go back and look, there will be things that you do. You have a list and you will be able to really acknowledge all that. So that's not to say that you're not accomplishing things. I'm bringing this up because I often hear people see time as in the way that they see money. It's often seen the same way as scarce. So there can be this scarcity mindset that goes and emanates into the idea of time. Okay. And so this idea that there's not enough time, if you give time to something, then that time is taken away from something else, or, time passes by so quickly. When we get to the end of the year, do you say, oh, yes, I can't believe what happened to the year. What happened, last year? What happened to this year? It just passed by so quickly. And I found that as I get older, and maybe you have found this as well, the years tend to pass. They seem like they're passing quicker and quicker and quicker. And when I look back and I think back and remember, being a teenager, remember thinking how long the days were sometimes, especially in school, and how different that is now. The sense may be because we have more responsibilities, because you have more responsibilities. It may be because you spend so much time multitasking. Maybe you spend a lot of time planning, so that a lot of that energy and mind space is spent on planning and organizing things and organizing your days. A lot of the leaders that I work with, they have multiple roles. And when you have those multiple roles, and then you have your vision and the goals that you want to create, there becomes a lot of this, what we don't count time. What you may not be looking at is how much time do you spend like in that planning space, in that space of thinking, right? And so when people say that they take time off, when you are in your time off, are you spending time thinking about your career? Are you spending time thinking about your business? Right? So most likely, if you're passionate about it, if it's something you really care about, if you care about your success, you are spending that time. Those are all ways that time seems to be passing by faster because our mind is engaged with something. The other thing is the multitasking. And so there's so much controversy about multitasking. So some people say like women's brains are designed in ways that they can multitask. And, that's just how we're functioning. And more with the way that we've been meeting on video, the way that we've been meeting virtually, there seems to be this multitasking happening because it's so accessible and it's so easy to do. And then there's that misconception that you're doing all these things, but your brain can truly focus on one thing at a time, right? So you may think that you are accomplishing a couple things, but in reality, you are focusing on one thing at a time. Now, there could be exceptions to this for you. So one of the things that I've noticed that if I'm using my body or doing a task that is very subconscious, right? That you can do without thinking. For instance, if I'm going for a walk, or if what you're making for dinner is something you've made many times, or if you are, getting ready in the morning, or, those type of tasks that you really doesn't take a lot of your conscious energy, then it's possible to maybe listen to something in the background and you're able to focus on that mostly. Yeah. So the multitasking I'm talking about that really it creates the sense of accomplishment that's not real, that it's not actually true. It creates this idea and this sense of I'm getting so many things done, or maybe even thinking you're paying attention to both things happening, but really you aren't getting the most out of either experience. And this contributes to the sense of how quick time passes too, because we're really not present and conscious. Okay, so I would really recommend that you start to pay attention to this for yourself. How many times a day are you multitasking? And really check in with yourself and see when you are multitasking, is it true that you're getting the things done in the way that you would like? And then the other question to ask yourself is, are you truly present and enjoying that task work that you are engaged with? I know a lot of you hear from people, I have to attend these meetings and they're so boring. And so those tend to be times when people multitask. If that serves you, great. On the other hand, if there are things that you want to do, for instance, be present with your family, or you want to pay attention to someone, but then your brain is in that kind of mode of multitasking all the time, it becomes really difficult for you to focus when you are usually multitasking the rest of the day, right? So you're asking your brain to do and function differently, and it's going to take a lot of energy to focus on the task at hand. And so if you find yourself not being able to pay attention to people as much as you would like, if you find yourself feeling like you go through your day and you're not sure what you did, if you find yourself having difficulty focusing on something for a long time, and I'll define what I mean by a long time in a minute, then it may be time for you to check in on your multitasking. Where are you multitasking that does not serve you? What can you reduce in your day? So I know, we can set the goal, I'm never going to multitask again. And if you do, most likely that's not going to last long. So instead of that, take a look at when you are doing it and when you want to consciously choose it and when you're going to consciously choose differently. So you can have your brain and train your brain in a way to be able to do both And then the other part of that is the enjoyment of life, of the tasks of your work, right? There are aspects of work that can be more enjoyable if we can focus. Okay, and if you want to get more things done, if you want to recover that time, then it is about being focused on the task at hand. Now, some people say that the brain can only focus on a singular task for a certain amount of time. So one of the methods that I usually recommend is the Pomodoro method, which you've probably heard about. And that method is based on studies on how much time we can pay attention. And that is usually about 25 minutes or so. So the method is that you set a timer for 25 minutes, get rid of all the other things going on, and you focus on a singular task. And when the timer goes off, you take a break. Okay, so you go ahead and take a break for 5 minutes, and then you come back and do another 25-minute block of time. And now you do this for 4 blocks of time. So you do 4 25-minute blocks of time, and then you take a longer break. So probably a half-hour break, a 45-minute break, and you go back. So when you function this way, either the 25 minutes can feel really long, or it can feel like not enough time, depending on the task that you're doing. Okay. But these breaks, these are conscious breaks. So if we don't choose to take breaks consciously, our brains will choose ways to take those time off, take those breaks unconsciously. And usually those breaks are really not as refreshing as stepping away from the task, from work, getting some fresh air, going and taking a glass of water, taking some breaths. Maybe, for you, you've talked about meditating and you haven't been able to do that. Maybe you do a 5-minute meditation and you use that as your break. And really choosing that time to be a tool to recharge. Okay, so this is really helpful for projects that need your focus. Now, there are so many different types of tasks, right? But if you're finding that you're not able to complete projects as much as you'd like and the focus has been a challenge, this is a method that I would recommend that you try so that you can then feel that sense of accomplishments and actually get those things done. So, the time is valuable, and then being able to focus on the task at hand and having tools and not multitasking as your default, right? So instead of multitasking as your default, choosing when it's appropriate and when it feels appropriate for you. So those are the first couple tips for recovering your time. The next tip has to do with the vision. Okay, so in the past, I had a couple episodes that talk about vision and creating a vision board, and especially using the energy at the beginning of the year. But you can actually do this at any time to set the vision of what you want to create, what you want to feel. Okay, really focusing on the feeling. And I'm going to encourage you to listen to those episodes. If you haven't, I'll have the links in the show notes for the visioning episode and the 3 ways to recover, to align your days and organize your time. And so then when you start with the vision, if you've heard of starting with the end in mind, when you start with that, then you're able to move forward and create your time, see how you're spending your time, and see how that aligns with your vision. So after you create your vision, another step would be to almost create like these goals, right? And I hesitate to use that word because I think it's overused. But, what if you looked at your vision of what you want to create this year, and maybe your word for the year or the phrase or theme for this year has to do with your health or has to do with your career. You want to make a career change, right? So when you look at that as your vision, you want to feel purpose in your career. So if that's what you want to create this year, then give yourself some time to sit with that and brainstorm. What are some steps that you can take? What are, maybe some benchmarks for yourself, right? So maybe for your career, it's like the first goal is figure out what I want to do, right? Figure out the next career that I want. And so if that's the case, then you break that down further and say, Maybe, I'm going to do some assessments. Maybe I'm going to look at hiring a mentor or coach. Maybe I'm going to look at some opportunities in my company. Maybe I want to start by having conversations with people in my life. Where can you actually take some action towards this vision that you want, towards this energy that you want? And then when you look at those steps, you look at how you're spending your time and what are some things that you can let go of and almost replace it with these tasks, right? Because most people will tell me that I just really don't have time. I don't have time to add more things to my plate. And so by using those tips that I'm talking about, you're going to start to be able to uncover more time. Okay, more time that you may not even realize is being spent in ways that are not in alignment with you. And so when you are focusing on the vision and focusing with the end in mind and then breaking it down into tasks and putting that into your calendar, and if you're still not able to find a way to do the things that you want to do, then my recommendation is for you to go ahead and track your time. Now, I've talked about this before, but really allow yourself this gift of tracking how you're spending your days and your time, looking at your calendar. You can write down all the things that you did this week. You can plan your days. You can break things down, right? Use some of these time management tools to be clear about how you are actually spending your time and whether it's in alignment with what is the vision that you want to create. That is something you have control over. That time, how you spend, what do you focus on? That is the energy of what you are creating. So just to do a quick recap, and before I do that recap, I wanted to let you know if, your career is something that you are interested in shifting this year, then I would love to speak with you. I love to help people move into their purposeful career. So if you want to do that, schedule the 30-minute call with me. There will be a link to schedule the call in the show notes. I'd love to connect with you. Just a quick recap is our time is valuable. As we multitask, the time feels like it's passing faster. Consciously choose when you are going to multitask. Start with your end in mind with your vision. If you need projects and you're having trouble focus, try the Pomodoro technique. And then if you're still not able to look and accomplish the things once you have your vision and you've broken down the goals, then really track your time. Pay attention to how you're spending it and see what things you can eliminate. What are some things that you can delegate or just to let go of for now? So this is Kavita with Aligned and Soulful. Until next time, take good care. Bye. Thank you for joining me for Aligned and Soulful Leadership. I was inspired to start this podcast as a way to empower women of color to rise up into their aligned leadership. Remember, I will have all the resources I mentioned during this episode available in the show notes at alignedandsoulfulpodcast.com. I'm your host, Kavita, and if you enjoyed this podcast, please tell your friends. And if you haven't received my free abundance meditation and exercise, then go to alignedandsoulfulleadership.com and subscribe to my newsletter, and you will receive this powerful visualization and exercise to ignite your abundant life. Thank you. Until next time, take good care. Bye.